Okay, folks, and welcome back to another edition of Knicks Verse. And this time around, we are going to take a look at the Los Angeles Lakers, take a look at their head-to-head matchups, see the last two games from last season, and then take a little look at the roster as it's currently set up, their matchup against the Knicks, and see if the Knicks fare off fairly well against the Lakers. If you take a look here, we have played 322 total games against the Lakers, and we have a losing record against them. Lakers have a 170 to 123 against us. And if you notice here, franchise variance, the Los Angeles Lakers have destroyed the Knicks for the most part. But when they were the Minneapolis Lakers, we were fairly even. In the playoffs, we played them 29 times. For the most part, from what you see here, when they were the Minneapolis Lakers, it was a little tough. But when they became the Los Angeles Lakers, I guess not as hard because we got 9 wins against them. But of course, the only time that we play against the Lakers in the playoffs is going to be the finals, if the event ever occurred. 1952, 1953, 1970, 72, and 73 were the times that we played against each other. And the Knicks we won 73 and we won 70, and then they won 52, 53, and 72. Let's go to the regular season. And if you notice, last season, we played them twice, April 12th and May 11th. And the seasons before that, January and January, January and March, December, January. So it kind of varies, and they do wind up mixing things. We won the April 12th game against the Lakers, and we lost the May 11th game against the Lakers. I think I watched both games. Quickly, just to go through, Knicks won 111-96. This was April 12th, 2021. Let's take a look. Wow, the third quarter for the Knicks. Surprising, 26 points. And we held the Lakers to 16 points. Of course, a lot of these players on the Lakers won't be there. Anybody to note that went off? No one really. Anyone for the Knicks? Randle had 34 points, 10 rebounds, 13 of 23 shooting, really good. D Rose had 14 points. RJ didn't really help too much on 2-11 shooting, but we did shoot 47%. Wow. 18% from 3. That is disgusting. Mitchell Robinson out. They had Anthony Davis, Jared Dudley, LeBron James, and Alfonso McKinney also out. Game 2, the game that we lost in overtime, May 11th. Look at that. We held the Lakers to 16 points in the first game, and then 18 points in the second game in the third. But we also scored 15 points in the fourth, so we let our foot off the pedal just a little bit. We do have a strong second quarter. We seem to score pretty well. Well, that's kind of the Knicks now. They seem to have a good first half and then not necessarily a great second half. Julius Randle had 31, so there's a narrative now. Can Julius Randle continue his 30-point performance like he did last season? And D Rose, wow, helped out. 10 of 22 for 27 points. That is just lovely. 39% from the field, 35% from 3, 91% from the free throw line. Anthony Davis had 20. Kyle Kuzma had 23. Not bad. A lot of these guys aren't there anymore. We didn't have Burks quickly, or Mitch, of course, and they didn't have LeBron James. So LeBron didn't suit up. Interesting. Now I want to see where we were at the points during the games. April 12th and then May 11th. Oh, wow. We were on our 9-game win streak, and they were game 3. And at this point, wow, still in April, we were just hovering at 500. But remember, this is a shortened season that started in December. So since it's not October, November, late October, early November, this is late December, early January. So we would miss about a month and a half. So you can argue that the Knicks could have gotten to about 500 at this point. They probably could have gotten it instead of April, February, March, if they had some more time. We were on a 9-game win streak, and they were game 3. And then I want to look at May 11th. In our last 5, Lakers were the only team that beat us in that 5-game stretch. It's the end of the season, I get it. And these were the Knicks. Let's take a look at the Lakers, where they were at this time, April 12th, at the Knicks. They had won. Oh, so they were kind of up and down a little bit at that point for a while. They lost 4 in a row. They were having a pretty tough time at this point, too. In today's sort of regular NBA season, this would have probably happened in February, March, or something like that. And then May 11th, where were they? Oh, wow, they went on a 5-game win streak. So they closed out pretty good, 38-30, and then that really helped push them over. But they had a 42-30 record. And last season, we had a 41-31 record. Okay, and now I want to take a look at when the Knicks play the Lakers in the 2021-2022 season. And if you see here, November 23rd, and February 5th. With that said, let's get a look at their roster, their depth, their schedule, and see what's going on. First thing I want to notice about the Lakers is their injuries. And LeBron's out, Trevor's out, Talen Horton-Tucker's out, Kendrick Nunn's out, and Austin Reeves is out. So they do have players that are out, and injuries do kind of suck. So it really hurts them. And I think these players, especially LeBron James, because he's, I think, their biggest minutes guy and their best scorer on the team. Statistically, his average is the highest of the team, I believe, at this moment. It's really hard when you don't have your best player who can play every single position. And your little pieces here that you acquired, aside from I think Talen Horton-Tucker was drafted, and maybe Reeves was brought on as a walk-on, or I don't know what his contract is. But these players are in the system, and currently they're not. As we go to their depth chart, they seem to have Westbrook, Bradley, Bazemore, and typically they put in LeBron and Davis. I'm assuming since LeBron's out, Melo's been picking up. Monk has been picking up as well. Rondo, Wayne Ellington have picked up some time. Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard. You know, I'll say this is a very tall team, and they do have depth. Actually, the average age of this team makes it so that a lot of people will see this team as preparing for the playoffs. This team during the playoffs, I'm so curious to see how they would look. During an 82-game season, you're going to see a lot of mixing and matching, I think, for the most part. Or maybe even definitely, I want to see the Lakers after the All-Star break and how they switch things up, what they're going to do with their minutes and their players, how they're going to rest players, what lineups are they going to have. So what lineups will Frank Vogel provide? Because we see the Lakers only in the first half of the season. We won't necessarily see them afterwards where they're trying to rest guys or something, or that's what I believe, of course, you know, but we won't see them when they're preparing for the playoffs. We're seeing them in November, and then just before the All-Star break. Maybe I can find an argument for that second game, but that first game, let's see what happens, because they do have some people that are out. Stat-wise for the Lakers, yeah, it is LeBron James, 24 points per game. 23.8 is Anthony Davis. Russell's getting about 19. Their rebounds are really good for the most part. They have their top 3 players are also the ones getting rebounds as well. Their top 3 players that are averaging in points per game. Melo ain't too shabby. See, the thing is, Melo on 28 minutes is getting 16 points a game, 4 rebounds a game, and an assist. So he's there to score. Someone I want to keep in mind, his name is Sekou. You know, we'll see what he can do, because he kind of has some little flashes of being kind of good. They brought in Avery Bradley back. They got Dwight. They got Rondo. They got all these guys here. And if you notice, to compensate for the time, a lot of players are playing a lot of minutes. So they're trying to get their bench in so that this way their starters can rest and then they can play and things like that. With the 7-6 record, seems like they're still trying to find themselves. I want to see what they do home versus away, because we play 1 game home and 1 game away. Not too shabby. They play about to their average, and I want to see away what they do. Play too much to their average away. These are just stats, remember, these are just numbers. But they do get decent rebound. Westbrook really likes to play away. He only had 1 game, so we can't really say anything. But Melo in the 3 away games has scored under double digits. So it'll be pretty interesting. Look at the Knicks depth really quick. Also 7-6, but all we have is a day-to-day with just Nerlens. So everyone seems to be there and available for the Knicks. What they're going to do, that's going to be the interesting part. November 23rd and February 5th. Let's take a look at the schedule. November 23rd and February 5th. It's on TNT, so that'll be good. Wow, $235. They'll be in New York. They do play on the 15th, which is coming up. They play Chicago, and then they're at Milwaukee on the 17th, at Boston on the 19th, so they got to go up and then to the right, and then Sunday the 21st, they got to go back from Boston to Detroit, slightly down to New York, cut to Indiana, go home. That's an interesting schedule. They could win these games, but the traveling is going to be kind of tough, and with their injuries. So they'll be home 2 games, And really, they're home for LA, home for Portland. Once January ends, they are coming off of a pretty tough road stretch. I mean, they do have Orlando, but Orlando could surprise people. Miami's a tough team. Brooklyn is still tough. They have KD. Philadelphia, I mean, by that point, who knows what's going to happen with them, but they should have Joel Embiid back. Charlotte, Atlanta. Atlanta's not doing really so well this time. Around this time last season, they weren't that good either. And then they made a coaching switch. So we'll see what happens. The East has gotten a little weird again, because now teams are kind of evening out. They got all their talent, and we're getting to that like first 20 games sort of vibe. Let's see, the Knicks will be home. The 15th, we have Indiana. Then we have Orlando. Then we have Houston. And then begins the very, very tough schedule at Chicago on the 21st. So back-to-back Houston, Chicago. Oh, and then we have LA the 23rd. And then we have a couple of days break. And then another back-to-back. Home and then at Atlanta, then we come back up. Let's look at February. We'll be home at Sacramento, at Memphis. Memphis will be tough. Away at Los Angeles, at Utah. Wow, February is going to be a little tough as well. That'll be a very tough schedule. All of February is pretty hard. Memphis, Los Angeles, Utah, Denver, Golden State, Portland. OKC, you could probably say is a palate cleanser, but with the way the Knicks play sometimes, maybe not. Brooklyn, Miami, Philly twice, Phoenix. And then we kind of get a little bit of respite. Some relaxation, I guess you could say, with Sacramento and Dallas, but then we got to go back to Memphis and then Brooklyn. So the Knicks kind of have a hard November. They have a hard February, late January going into February. So we really have to take advantage of those December, January games, because we do not know what's going to happen. But in this case, for the Knicks, as we go back to November, I think, honestly, even though they're injured, I can probably see us going 1-1. Maybe we get this first game. It might be a little tough because the Knicks could potentially lose the Indiana game, the Orlando game. They could probably win the Houston game. We could go 1-4 potentially in this first half. We could possibly win this game if their players aren't there, in my opinion. And now we get to the part where I talk a little bit about what the Lakers are and maybe ways in which the Knicks can beat them. Some things that you have to look at: the matchup with Mitchell Robinson against Anthony Davis. The Lakers, for some reason, do get threes raining down on them. So the Knicks might find a way to shoot threes, and if they can make them rhythm threes, that'll be really great. Now, the Knicks, I'm not really keen on their ball movement, but it'll take things like ball movement to help stop the Lakers, or at least control your part of the effort. Because the Lakers, a lot of people call this team the AARP team. So we have to take advantage of the fact that maybe they don't want to go on fast breaks. Maybe they don't want to keep running the court because they would prefer to get set into their half-court style offense and then get set into their half-court style defense. So potentially running will be the option. And I think cutting this team, if the Knicks can sort of cut to get spaces open, because the Lakers do sometimes leave spaces open, and they do leave a little bit of room open, especially sometimes at the free throw line, I notice. And if you can get threes, kind of like how Minnesota did against them, and use our length, kind of like how Portland did against the Lakers, maybe there's something there. Our best bet against this team is going to be the mid-range game, cutting constantly, moving off the ball, the hustle plays, trying your best to get strips, trying your best to get the rebound, trying to get the outlet pass, definitely trying to get fast breaks. We got to move this ball. We got to move this team, which is why I really think our second unit might really come in handy this time around. What happens to this Knicks team if they're up by 5? Do they start just chucking threes? Really, really try to get fouls, because guess what? The Lakers are going to try to get threes. They're going to try to get lobs, and they're going to try to get lobs and get fouled, because they also want to try to slow the game down. They don't want to have to run. What sense would that make for this Lakers team to have to run too much when they can preserve their energy? And I think for the Knicks, anything in the third quarter might be a problem. Even though last season, the 2 games, we held them to under 20 points in the third quarter, and we ourselves scored fairly well in the second quarter and the third quarter, I still think that because they didn't have LeBron, who knows what team is going to suit up for that November game and that February game. We have to take advantage of that, because the Lakers do want to shoot threes. And guess what? The Lakers are tall enough. They can get offensive rebounds and they can get put back dunks. Really, really, really got to keep stuff like that in mind. But the Lakers are tall, and so are the Knicks. So you got to also keep that in mind. Late game Russell Westbrook sort of heat checks, if you will, those hustle plays, fourth quarter, Russ kind of likes to do that. We can take advantage of their threes, and if they miss, especially for Russell Westbrook, it would be very nice to box out. But overall, with the schedule and the way we look at it, I think we go 0-2 against them. Maybe we can get that November game, or maybe we can get that February game if people are looking to rest. Especially the Lakers bigs, if they're looking to rest, their big names are looking to rest in some sort of way, shape, or form. However, I believe as of this moment, the best opportunity we can go against the Lakers and beat them in the November game while they have some players out. You got to keep Sekou in mind. You got to keep Malik Monk in mind. I mean, everybody you got to keep in mind. But those two players as well, who knows what's going to happen? Those can be those sort of players. Because I notice when the Knicks play, there is one player on the team that's not their main player who does wind up scoring fairly well. However, my full prediction, I would say we go 0-2 against the Lakers. Thanks guys for your time. This has been the Knicks versus the Lakers for the 2021-2022 regular season matchup.